Let's get right into it because today we are unpacking an absolute generational leap in the world of generative AI, ByteDance's newly announced Seedance 2.5 model. Throughout this explainer, we're going to look at the data, the specs, and the major industry shifts to understand why this isn't just some minor iteration. It is a complete paradigm shift for creation.
To really wrap our heads around why this matters so much to creators and studios, you have to consider this number, $500,000. That was the entire budget to make a recent AI action fantasy film called Hellgrind, which actually premiered parallel to the Cannes Film Festival back in May. And the truly wild part about this? They made the entire 95-minute feature film in literally just 2 weeks.
Okay, let's dive into this because out of that $500,000, a staggering 80% went straight to generative AI compute costs. The 15-person crew was practically just burning through cash. They were writing these exhausting, highly detailed 3,000-word prompts just to generate and regenerate 15-second clips over and over again until they finally got something useful.
And that brilliantly illustrates the exact problem the industry is facing today. We are finally moving away from the old era, which the CEO of Higgsfield AI literally described as having a slot machine feeling. Where you just pull the lever, re-roll your prompts, and kind of cross your fingers hoping the physics and characters stay consistent. We're moving away from that and into the new era, the directed render. And this is precisely the massive shift that Seedance 2.5 is promising to deliver.
Section 1. The Seedance 2.5 leap. According to the Next Web, ByteDance deliberately skipped versions 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, and 2.4 entirely. They just jumped straight from their previous 2.0 model right to 2.5. Why? To send a clear, undeniable message to the market. This is not a tweak. It's not a small iteration. It is a completely new baseline for what an AI model is actually capable of.
Section 2. Specs that change everything.
Let's rapidly fire off the headline specs for Seedance 2.5, because we're looking at a holy trinity of upgrades here. 30-second native 4K generation, up to 50 multimodal inputs, 10-bit color depth, and 3D white box previews. I want to highlight that 10-bit color depth first. That is absolutely crucial for the industry because it provides way smoother gradients and gives editors actual headroom for professional post-production color grading. And those 3D white box previews? That's a huge win for pre-visualization. It lets directors generate low-fidelity animations to test out their camera angles before committing to a full, super expensive render. But let's focus on this number right here, 30. 30 seconds of continuous native 4K generation. This is a monumental shift for narrative storytelling. Previously, creators were capped at around 15 seconds. That forced them to manually stitch shorter clips together and just pray that the characters' faces or the scene's lighting didn't suddenly warp across the cut. Seedance 2.5 promises a full 30-second narrative sequence in a single pass. No stitching required. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is this totally game-changing concept of region-level redraw. Imagine you've successfully generated a perfect 30-second commercial, right? But you need to change a product logo on a table for a different international market. Instead of re-rolling the entire thing and risking losing that perfect shot, region-level redraw lets you alter just that specific element while perfectly preserving the original motion, the camera position, and the lighting. It essentially solves the massive headache of ad localization overnight. And this all builds into a totally complete workflow. Remember how we mentioned that jump from 12 to 50 multimodal reference inputs? Well, this means you can simultaneously input a 3D white box for your scene blocking, add extensive character sheets to maintain identity consistency, and co-process your audio. Because audio is now processed in the exact same latent space as the visual signals, you get native, phoneme-level lip sync and sound effects that perfectly match the on-screen action. It gives creators absolute control over scene consistency. Section 3. Seedance versus the competition. So how does this stack up? The competitive context has shifted dramatically in just a few months. OpenAI actually shut down Sora back in March. Reports indicated it was bleeding cash, costing them roughly $1 million a day to operate, while generating just a fraction of that in revenue. Google then stepped in to fill the vacuum with Veo 3.1, which does offer native 4K, sure, but it severely lags in reference capacity. It maxes out at just 3 inputs compared to Seedance's 50. And this brilliantly illustrates the real heavyweight matchup right now, Seedance 2.5 versus Kuaishou's Kling 3.0. As you can see, Seedance clearly wins on duration with 30 seconds, reference capacity, and that powerful local redraw feature.
However, Kling 3.0 is a fierce competitor because it actually wins on fine-grained motion control with its interactive motion brush feature, and it possesses really excellent text rendering for things like storefront signs and logos. Ultimately, it really comes down to what your specific production needs are.
Section 4. Developer access and pipelines. So, the crucial point here for any developers tuning in, you absolutely must make your job schemas configurable rather than hard-coded. With this leap to 30-second native 4K renders, your API polling intervals are going to stretch significantly. You also need to audit your array sizes to handle up to 50 reference inputs. And importantly, experts are strongly advising to keep a Seedance 2.0 fallback trigger ready. You want to ensure your production pipelines don't just break during the transition.
The developer community is already moving super fast to accommodate this, by the way. There is already a new open-source Python CLI tool available on GitHub acting as a batch generator. This lets teams automate high-speed workflows and run multi-threaded CSV batching for Seedance across API hosting backends like Volcano Arc, Val.ai, and Replicate. The technical infrastructure is actively being built out right now to support this at a massive scale.
Section 5. The Hollywood Copyright Standoff.
But, and this is a big but, tracing this timeline back to February 2026, a viral deepfake showing Tom Cruise fighting Brad Pitt on a rooftop triggered a massive backlash from Hollywood. This pressure forced ByteDance to actually pause their global rollout in mid-March. Now, here we are in June. They've announced version 2.5 with a targeted public launch in July, but the underlying tensions from earlier this year, they definitely haven't vanished.
Those tensions are represented by some very real, very heavy legal hurdles. Seedance 2.0 received cease and desist letters from major studios, including Disney, Warner Brothers, Discovery, Paramount, and Netflix. There were also formal complaints from the Motion Picture Association and SAG-AFTRA. As a result, ByteDance implemented C2PA watermarks and face-blocking filters. While they have announced an AI copyright platform alongside 2.5, as of right now, there is no formal settlement with Hollywood, and importantly, no timeline at all for a United States rollout.
Which brings us to our final thought, and the most provocative question we're left with in this explainer. ByteDance undoubtedly has the generational tech to change production forever, but do they have Hollywood's permission? Can a tool this powerful and capable seamlessly integrate into Western production pipelines without a formal legal consensus on copyright and likeness? It is a fascinating standoff, and it's one that will absolutely define the future of AI and entertainment. Thanks for joining me to unpack all of this. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.